Welcome to episode 19 of the Austin Downbeat. Thank you so much for joining me. This covers June 28th through July 4th. Here is the rundown for this week. So we have Thursday, June 30th, Urban Heat, who has already been interviewed. They are in the can, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, they are coming out next week. Their episode comes out next week. But Urban Heat is at Hotel Vegas. Pat Byrne and Jamie Harris are together at Don's Depot. Do you understand how special this is? These two sing a song on Pat Byrne's record called Losing Heart. And it is so gorgeous. And the two of them are actually going to be able to sing it live. Jane Leo, who's been on the show, they are at Chess Club that night. All of this is happening on Thursday, June 30th. Friday, July 1st. Can you believe it's July already? David Shabani, who is coming on the show in a few weeks. I've already had a chat with him. He is at Music in the Park at Easton Park. The Big Gun Show is at the Little Longhorn Saloon. And Natalie Price, who is also coming on the show, is at Common Thread. Saturday, July 2nd, a lot of places are going to be celebrating 4th of July throughout the weekend. One of my favorite venues called Dreamland out in Dripping Springs has a 4th of July celebration, pretty much goes all day, but definitely doing fireworks and some big names like Pat Byrne and Bob Schneider there. So make sure you buy tickets. And Monday, 4th of July. So Willie Nelson is doing his 4th of July family picnic over at Q2 Stadium, which is a great stadium if you haven't checked it out for an Austin FC game. I'm just going to name a few. So you have Charlie Crockett, Brothers Osborne, Allison Russell, Asleep at the Wheel, Jason Isbell, and a few more are going to be at Q2 Stadium. And one of my favorite things to go do is Monday Night Supper Club. I'm going to say it till it's over. Over at El Mercado South, Pat Byrne, Barbara Nesbitt, Ben Jones, Monday Night Supper Club, $10 to get in, and you eat. So much fun, and they're actually really funny. Even Pat Byrne can be funny. All right. Today's episode, I have a friend of mine named Wane Lindsey, and Wane is kind of approaching music from a different angle for once. So we're talking about music management. Wane works for Why and How, which is a fantastic management company. And Wane is, although he still manages bands, he's in their ventures department, which partners with entrepreneurs and stays within that kind of entertainment music space. So it's a different arm of it. But what's cool about Wane is he has, I think, a relatable story. He does have a relatable story of finding his way through his 20s, of kind of figuring out life like we all have to do. And luckily for him, really stumbling in and making it work, and making it work in a field where, you know, now he's really doing what he loves. You know, he went from selling tamales and insurance to now he's playing with the big boys at a really great company. So he's the director of marketing for Why and How Ventures. Management team he's with Deezie Brown, who's been on the show. In fact, Wane and his partner Eric Radford introduced me to Deezie, and Hood Taylor and Angel White. So he has his hands kind of still in everything, but we have a really great conversation about just his journey to where he is now. And then we also end up having a really deep conversation about rap, which I didn't really know this about myself until probably starting to really do this show, of just how interested I am in the genre of rap, and wanting to learn more and know more. I really enjoy talking to people who perform their art in that genre. It's just really fascinating to me. And we end up having a really cool conversation about it. So I hope you enjoy it. Wane is great. and I think you'll enjoy it just as much as I did. So please enjoy my conversation with Wane Lindsey. Welcome to the show, Wane Lindsey.
Thanks so much. It's been a joy to watch you do your thing, and I'm a big fan of the podcast, so I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. I was thinking, is this what I have to do in order to see you now these days? Have you on my show?
Unfortunately, yeah. Unfortunately, no, but I'm happy to be here and to talk with you. I'm excited.
Yeah, let's get into it. But first, I was really hoping that you would wear a white shirt because you and I, we tend to match.
Oh, yeah, I messed that up. I didn't get the memo today.
My little birthday buddy. For those of you watching, Wane and I used to office out of the same building, and not every day, but quite often we'd see each other and we would be wearing like really similar clothes.
Yeah, something's going on. Yeah, today I slept on the white tee. It's in the wash.
Doing the whites. Awesome. Well, let's dive in. And I feel like I know you a little bit, but there is a lot that I don't know about you. So why don't you just kind of start? I am curious, where are you from, and kind of how did you come into the music business and realizing that that's where your passions and gifts lie?
Yeah, it's definitely a journey of self, like really figuring out who I am and what I was meant to do. But originally grew up in Madison, Wisconsin, in a family of musicians. Both my parents played instruments. My sister plays instruments. I was in band and orchestra growing up. So I've always been around music my whole life, variety of different kinds. And so something like there was always something creative bubbling in what I was doing. I remember like very early on, some of my favorite like Christmas presents or birthday gifts were transparent paper that I could draw on or like copy things and make them into my own. And I'd never, for a while after, being a kid, I forgot about that. Like that didn't register to me. And so I went to school, I went to college in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and studied a variety of things. Couldn't really figure it out. At first it was social work, and then it was journalism, and then it was marketing. But I didn't really like school. Like it was never meant for me. Like I think that I'm very smart, but I could never really get myself to give my all there. College really will tell you if that's what's meant for you or not. And it was definitely not meant for me. But I learned, I was learning more on the internet about what I loved and what I was interested in than I was learning in the classroom. And I had a friend named Colin Johnson who, it was just like, man, we both love music. And it was like, how, what should we do? And we traveled down to Austin in 2011 at the tail end of South by, and sort of like, we're just so amazed by the energy in the city. And it became apparent really quickly, like, hey, we need to move here. So a year later, I moved down, and again, like not really knowing what I was meant for or what I wanted to do, just knowing that like there was something in music that I wanted to chase. And that was really hard, I think, to convince my parents that was realistic. But it was something that always called to me. And I picked up a variety of odd jobs here, sold tamales on 6th Street. I worked bar security in the warehouse district. I sold insurance at State Farm, like everything, and it's funny because like it all sort of led me to where I am now. But yeah, I really didn't get my break until I knew this guy was a DJ, and he's going on a world tour. He was still, fairly small, but he wrote for Complex at the time, and it was ACL weekend. I was like, man, maybe I can get him down here to DJ a party. And I didn't know what that entailed, but we exchanged some DMs on Twitter, and I knew this girl, Maria, who had been successful throwing shows like in this sort of scene, younger 20s, like college kids. I was like, hey, can you help me? And I paid her $100. She got all the acts together. She got the venue. We did it at a UT co-op on West Campus. And it was successful. It was actually so successful that at one point during the night, we broke the stage. Everyone was on the stage going crazy and broke the stage, unfortunately. But it was like, it left me with this, like, okay, I can do something like this. Like, I can explore this more. Which led to, a few months later during South by, I connected with an old friend from Milwaukee, and was like, hey, like, let me help you throw a show or an after party. So we did that on West 6th Street. And then fast forward that summer, I connected with an artist, Mike Melano from Detroit, who lives in Austin, and we threw a show on West Campus as well, and did a variety of different genres. There was 4 acts: hip hop, rock, metal, R&B.
Wow.
And I really wanted to do that because what the joy was, like, I think I have good taste in music. Like, let me find people that I think other people will enjoy. And that's when it took off. I picked up Photoshop for that event and like really learned how to market something. Picked up graphic design, and then got approached by an artist that I'm still friends with to this day, named Victor Livingston, who's lead guitar in Deezie Brown's band, and was in a band called Honey XL, which is phenomenal. And they asked me to manage them, and I was like, I don't know what that is, dude, but like, I can do Photoshop, I can make graphics, and I can send emails. Like, let's do it. And that just sort of, that's when it really took off. I think I was like 25 years old, and
wow,
it felt like all that self-discovery that I was searching for but didn't have the answers to. Like, I finally found something that, 1, I was good at, 2, I was passionate about, and it's gone from there.
Isn't it funny when things come up like that? And what I'm hearing you say is it kind of creates like a landing pad for your gifts to land on, for you to actually then see them in action. When you're in your 20s, especially early 20s, it's like you don't necessarily know the full 360 degrees around who you are and what you're good at until you just take a step and do it and see how it goes, right?
Yeah, and I came from a sheltered place. Like, I grew up in a small town. I was in sports, I was in band, like I was in a ton of different things, and I was decently good at all of them, but I wasn't great at anything because I didn't like focus on anything. And right. I think like moving away from Milwaukee was that step for me to get out of my comfort zone, because that's all I had known. Put me in an environment where, okay, now I'm not checking in with my parents on everything that I do. I'm not living this like, oh, I'm in school, but I don't love it. Like, it was me doing what I thought was best for me. Find, I think, what I used to do as a kid, and like remember that creativity was something that was important to me. And I was like, okay, now I can, once you put that with some business and you can understand how to make some money behind it, or like, what people desire from it, then it kind of clicks. And I'm really thankful that I pushed myself to do that. And I had friends around me who encouraged that and helped me throw these shows, and like, cleaned up the venues with me, and like all that stuff, like, I think helped me get to where I am. But yeah, I didn't know any better, like I didn't know it until I tried it.
Yeah, there's such, I look back on my life too, where I'm just like, I didn't even know what I didn't know. But the only reason is that I did the things that I did and have had the experiences I've had is because I had that like spark inside of me to just try things and do it and be like, we'll figure it out later. There's something to be said for.
Yeah, I was never really worried about fail. I was never worried about failure, like, because I didn't have anything to start with, Right, so it was exactly. Like, I'll just do things, and if it works, okay, cool. Like, then I'll just grow onto that. But yeah, I was never worried about failing or picking the wrong thing, because I didn't have anything to pick from.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. It's so funny, as a parent, I think about like, now I have kids, and if my kids do what I did, I mean, I feel like I'll be terrified, but at the very same time, I'm also really, really want them to do what you've done, what I've done, and just like leave home and go figure it out. And trust yourself. I think that's kind of the ultimate lesson there. Is like, I now at 46 years old, really, really trust myself, which is great, because no one can do that for you except for you. There's no going through the
That's,
motions on that one.
no, and I was always terrified of doing that. I was always terrified of going through the motions and like just doing something that, well, I was supposed to do, not that I could do.
Yeah.
And music sort of gave me an outlet to, again, find like that spark and that passion, and finding what I'm good at, and it's transformed into now a career, and something that I can proudly say what I do, and my parents can tell people what I do, because for a long time there it was like, and I think to a certain degree it's still like, what does he do exactly, but at least I have health insurance and I can pay my rent and stuff like that. So
Well, let's talk a little bit about specifically what Wane does. So you are with Lion Hell Management, which, by the way, seems like I want to get Bruce on the show and talk to him, because I've run into him in
yeah,
the halls. He seems like such a great guy. Um, so that's so cool that he's kind of at the top. It really does seem to kind of trickle down from there. And like, there's just a lot of goodness in that company. And you guys your roster of talent is just growing exponentially. It feels like every time I like
yeah.
hop onto social media, there's a new thing. But so let's talk a little bit about your role and what you do, and kind of, I know Deezie Brown, who's been on the show, who I love so much, such a fan of his,
Yep.
just who he is as a person and also his art. Like, I'm all about it. You know that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. But tell me a little bit about your role with Why and How, and what that journey has been like, because now you're with the big boys.
Yeah, and I'll back it up. I'll start a little even earlier, because a really pivotal moment in this whole journey was in 2018. I had met Eric Radford via Twitter, and managing Deezie at the time, and I was managing a few artists too, and we started meeting up at some coffee shops on Sundays, because it was the only time we could get out really outside of our 9 to 5s to meet up, and we would just drink coffee and like talk about things that we're working on, and issues and questions and stuff that was working for each other. And Deezie was playing a festival in Denver, and I was like, do you mind if I come with? Like, I'll just buy a ticket and I'll fly out with y'all. And they're like, sure. And so I flew out. I met them in Denver. I took some photos of Deezie on my iPhone 8 at the time, I think, and just built this relationship, and like gained their trust, and like found a home, I think. And that first night we were there, Eric and I were like, why don't we just do this, man? Like, do this together. And we had this dream of, throwing a show with KUTX, which we did, called Summer Jam, which has gone on to be super successful and creating a platform for hip hop in the city. So like, let's just start a company, dude. Let's just do this. And really, did successful things for a few years, and then COVID hit. We were still running the company, still throwing Summer Jam, still doing things, and but it got hard. I mean, COVID was real, especially in this industry, and we survived somehow. And like, we were out at Treaty Oak in Dripping Springs. They've been a long time sponsor of Summer Jam since year one, and we were filming because everything was like digital that year. We were filming commercials for brands who wanted to be involved, and so again, filming a commercial on my iPhone, we stumbled across a guy named Bruce Kalmick, who was introduced to us by the owners of Treaty Oak. Like, hey, you need to meet this guy. And we talked for about 15 minutes, told him about Deezie, showed him some music after we left. And he loved the energy, I think. We met up a few times after that, and he told us about Why and How, and a company that he was starting. And I think he saw a little bit of himself in us, sort of that hustle mentality, that figure it out, believe in what you're doing, and do really well at it, and see where it goes. And he's like, I don't know what it is, but I just want to work with you guys on something. And it made, at that time, it was like, bro, we just need a job. Like, if you can just give me a job, dude. I've been sending emails and resumes to other companies in the music industry for years. Never got a response, never got an email back, never got an interview.
Wow.
And it was that, like, he gave us a chance, and he sent us an offer, and he's like, you guys, like, come work for me. you can bring Deezie with you. And that was sort of like, hey, we're only going to come if we can bring Deezie with us.
Yeah.
And he was such a big fan of Deezie, so it was like, it just made sense. And I started, that was that changed my life, really, honestly. Like it gave me the backbone and foundation. Everything that I worked towards and risked and just sort of dove into was justified. And that feeling was remarkable. So Wine House started at the end of 2020. And at first, I was just a management assistant. I worked under a guy named Eddie Kloissel, who manages Whiskey Myers and Chase Rice and Brian Kelly. And just sort of like he met Bruce very on in his career too. And Bruce took him off the road as a tour manager and was like, hey, you're going to do this full time. And so to get to learn from two guys like that, who've started from the bottom, who've made it themselves, who are highly respected in their field, I couldn't have our situation. And did that for a year. And as of recently, I decided to move into our ventures division. So I still work in music half time. I'm managing Deezie, obviously, with Eric and this guy named Hood Taylor out of East Texas, who's really, really young and we're excited about. Angel White, who's from Dallas area. But I'm focused on marketing. So I'm now the director of marketing for our ventures division.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's this self-discovery. Like music was a tool and a resource, and it's what I'm passionate about. And like, I will be with Deezie until the end, hopefully. But this idea of creation and, digital brands and like building businesses, it's the same thing when you look at music or ventures.
Yeah.
It's the same concept. And so now every day I get to do what I'm good at. And yeah, it's a blessing. But Wine House is transforming. I mean, we're adding so many divisions. We have literary. I think we're getting into film. Obviously, this ventures thing is really exciting. And I couldn't work with a better company of people. And it's been an amazing journey since it started.
That is so cool. I love that sometimes it can be scary to sort of, like comfort and security is really nice and it's really seductive. And so I don't think it's a small thing, the fact that you've sort of taken a step and kind of pivoted a little bit and said like, hey, and kudos to Why and How too, for shopping from within and seeing that we aren't just one thing. Most people, I would say, have multiple gifts and multiple interests. Right. And I love that you had the room to be able to say, hey, I'm awesome at managing and growing and nurturing an artist, but I'm also really good at doing this too.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. And trust me, like I hit Eddie up all the time, like, hey man, this is what I want to do. Like, this is what I'm good at. Like, can I do this? And like very early I was doing it, but my role was to assist. It was to calendar and it was to book travel and it was to like do the things that an assistant does. And while I like loved the opportunity, it wasn't fulfilling every part of me. And I think when the opportunity arose and I was putting my foot in the door all the time, like the right opportunity came. And I was in Nashville and I called Eddie and I was like, hey man, like we need to talk. Like, I really want to do this. And he immediately was like, go do it. Like we'll find another we'll find another assistant. We'll that out. But he knew that this is what I wanted, what I was good at. And I talked to Bruce about it and I think they found that it was best for the company. And you're right. Like just, sometimes we get stuck in these jobs that we feel pigeonholed or we feel like we can't always do, what we're good at.
Yeah.
But yeah, they gave me a chance and I've been asking that since the beginning. So yeah, I've never wanted to stop, and I like people ask me, are you, what about the next 10 years? Like, I don't know, like, I'm just going to keep trying to do what I'm good at and see where it goes.
Yeah. What is I would think that the way that you're kind of living your life and your career path, it requires you to really have a good kind of balance check of yourself and where you're at. So what's, how do you take care of yourself, and how do you keep yourself like checked in to what you're thinking and what you're feeling? Because this business is pretty insane. I know you've been traveling for like the last month, and
Yeah.
looking like you're having a blast, but I know the truth behind all those photos is it's really exhausting too.
Yeah, so
So
tiring.
yeah, so how do you take care of yourself and check in so that when there is new information in there of like, hey, I need to dial back on this, I need to push the gas on that, like how are you checking in with yourself?
Yeah, that's been a journey too, to figure out. I've always been a pretty even keel person. Like it's never too high or never too low, and I'm blessed to sort of have that skill.
Yeah.
But I think like what someone reminded me of recently, and what helped me sort of understand not only what I was doing but how to deal with it was, Victor. He told me he's like, man, and while my job doesn't say that, I am creative, right? And like I am an artist in what I do. So in order to do that, I have to prioritize myself, because if you're going to create good things, that creativity needs to breathe, it needs to live, it needs to rest, all that. So
Yeah.
that reminded me to like, if I have to take a night off, if I have to take a weekend off, if I have to not start until 11 a.m. or 12, until noon, like I have to do that. And as long as I back it up with the work, then we're okay. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't go out as much as I normally, or I used to. I stay in the house. I rest. I'm here with my girlfriend, her child, and like I have a really good foundation. I think like the thing that I was missing was this foundation, not only career wise, and I don't need a lot of things I needed when I was 22 or 25 or 28. And that's really helped me ground myself. So I don't really have an answer. Like I don't meditate as much as I could. I don't do yoga as much
Yeah.
as I could. You know, but I've always been that level person where I'm only going to take what's in front of me. I'm not going to get too stressed about what's ahead or what's behind me. Every day is new. If I go to bed upset and frustrated and stressed out, I'm gonna wake up in the morning and be excited about the day and what I get to do. And I credit that to my career, because I get to do what I love every day,
Yeah.
which helps a lot.
It does.
Um, and walks. I like during COVID and quarantine, going on walks helped so much mentally. Like the
Yes.
constant stream of ideas, seeing new things, like your heartbeat increasing, like even something as simple try to do every afternoon or morning. It's like it helps keep me centered, and it helps keep fresh ideas coming to my head.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I don't think you have to do yoga and meditate in order
Yeah.
but those are like the cliche things, but
Right.
no, it sounds like you're doing such a great job of staying really in tune with who you are. And how old are you? I mean, you're still like 30.
30, yeah, 31.
Okay, 31. So, I mean, you're such a, a babe.
I feel like a baby. Like
A wee
I
babe.
mean, and that's the thing. Like, and what it took me getting to 30 to understand. Like, all my 20s were for was to figure out who I was.
Hmm.
And once I stopped putting all that pressure on myself of making that a reality, and it became a reality. But if that's what I spent the last 10 years doing, then it was a success.
Hmm. Absolutely.
And so like I don't, I'm not worried about anything else. Like I fully found who I am. I feel really young. And I think to that point, like I I think because like I'm so hungry and I'm so passionate about what I do. I believe in it. I believe in the people around me. That's enough positivity for me to let go of the stuff that's in the moment. It doesn't matter, because I have everything I need. I just need to keep doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about, I'm curious of your opinion about the Austin music industry, how it's changing. I talk to a lot of people that are from the kind of more like not original, but long-standing fabric of the music community here. Not industry, but more, I would call it community, because there's this really beautiful family of people, many, many, many people that I'm learning
Yeah.
about and meeting. And then you have an influx of new people just in general, and then obviously in the music, which is also really exciting. I don't think that one is better than the other,
Right.
but I think the fear is that the new doesn't understand or know about the old,
Yeah.
right? And so there's a real history here. And I think, one of the intentions of me talking to the people, a lot of the people that I talk to, is to really memorialize that and also push that out, make sure people understand and hear the stories about back in the day before Austin put its city clothes on,
Yeah.
Um, but from your perspective, I'm very curious as a younger person, and then being, especially with Deezie, and like the genres that you tend to be in are a little bit different than, maybe how Austin's music scene began. Although I think it
Yeah.
began in a really diverse way. I don't think it was always just one thing. Um,
Correct.
but I'm curious about what your perspective is, because you kind of enter the conversation from a specific angle.
Yeah. No, that's really well said. I think Austin is romanticized in a specific way,
Yeah.
but I do think that, like you said, like it always has been really diverse. People just don't know
Yeah.
that, especially people who aren't from here, right? And I wasn't from here. I moved here and had huge aspirations, and I think I was probably meant for an LA or a New York, like just from the way that I think, and I think what I want to accomplish.
Hmm.
But I found a home here, and in that I've had to be educated on things that I haven't known. Especially working in hip hop, creating Summer Jam for us was really important because it institutionalized hip hop in the city. Like, there's things that have come before that, but for us, it was really important to build a platform that was respected by institutions, because for a long time, hip hop was ignored. It was
Hmm.
only allowed to really breathe and live during South by,
Can,
but
can I
there's
ask you a
been
question?
decades of it here. Yeah.
Why is that? Why specifically? Because I find myself thinking about hip hop and rap a lot, like randomly through the day. It's something that I'm kind of always trying to figure out. It's a genre that really, really sticks out for me. It's a genre that I love and I want to know. I crave understanding. Um, and I also feel a bit outside of it, because it's just I feel like I just didn't grow up in that, but I also feel
Yeah.
really attracted to it. Why is hip hop kind of innately like that and sort of ignored?
It's definitely yeah, I mean, like, it's definitely one of those things it's obvious, right? Like, in a way,
Yeah,
it's institutional racism. Like,
yeah,
and I'd be lying if I said it wasn't that. It's the whole mantra of like the city thinking that it's violent, thinking that it
yeah,
only causes problems, thinking, that is dangerous. And like that's not just Austin. That's everywhere,
yeah,
and I think, like, the more that especially as a manager, I think what I was learning this because I was trying to book gigs for my artists. I was hitting up venues and hearing them as soon as I said hip hop stop responding or say
right,
no. And that was the thing about Summer Jam, that it was like, no, like, if we have KUTX behind this, shout out Confucius and Fresh, who really created that opportunity and broke down the barrier to get into radio in the city as two Black men who like love what they do and love the culture that they
hmm,
represent. Like, they created that opportunity and allowed us to help, and that taught me a lot. And trust me, like, I've gotten my own pushback. Like, we had a Forbes article come out about Eric and I and the things that we were trying to do industry wise in the city, and it got a lot of flack because people here were like, dude, we've been doing this for decades. Like, you think you moved here and you
right,
have the answers? Like, and
right,
that didn't, I didn't understand that, right? And it took some education about learning sort of like, what I'm actually doing here. And I don't, we've been able to create things that now I think hip hop is a little bit more prevalent. I think even Deezie having the opportunities that he's had to play ACL Live, or to do Hi, How Are You Day, or to do these like things in the city that, very few people have gotten those opportunities here before. And it's always been our mission. We worked for a nonprofit called EQ Austin for a while, which, the biggest reason why we were on the team was we need to make sure we're addressing these needs and genres that are underrepresented. And again, I think it goes back to this thing. Austin is a blues city. It's blues and country and
folk.
Like that's the foundation. It was built folk, and again built on the backs of Black artists, right? But like Austin doesn't romanticize that. It's Willie Nelson, and it's Stevie Ray Vaughan, and like that's if you go, when I went on tour and I was in different cities and I'd tell people I was from Austin, that's what they think of, right? That's what's promoted and marketed downtown, and the reason why people move here. That's what it is. There's a whole population of people and cultures that are really, really interesting and cool and doing amazing things in music, and they deserve to be heard. And so I think like if anything, I've always tried to just like build that and create platforms, and can say I've been pretty successful at it. I think like Austin needs that, and someone is going to take it on after me and do the same thing. And like I think that's what we need, and hopefully providing some level of success allows someone to build on top of that and do more. But yeah, interesting. Austin's an interesting place.
It is. But I feel like it's kind of a consistent theme of just like, this is kind of how it always is, any content creative, whether it's a TV series, music, film, whatever, that is savvy and smart and sexy, and like the coasts kind of get it because it's like dialed into the truth, and it's probably not going to survive. It's got to appeal to the masses. It has to appeal to the center of the country. And it has to be branded and marketed and shiny and palatable and bite size and white. And so it is frustrating. Is there a level of, you're way more in it in the trench than I am, of trying to get things booked and shows. Is it discouraging at times, or is it getting easier because you're maybe have a little more leverage and you're really growing?
It was discouraging for a long time. But I do think the city has turned a corner, and I'm not crediting the city for that. I'm crediting the artists here, because I think like there's such a level of talent, it can't be ignored at this point. And so I think now it is finally, like you said, there is leverage there, because this is the city now. Like this is what we're representing. This is what a young professional audience wants to hear and wants to listen to and wants to go to shows to see. Like I think it is this young influx of people moving to the city, and then also this talent of artistry in the city that, in my opinion, and I know this, Austin music is heralded for decades. It's never been better than it is right now. There's never been as much talent on a wide range of sound, what people look like. I've never seen anything like it in my time here, and from what I've researched before. I think we're in an amazing place, and it's little pieces like that. It's Brushing and Fuchsia's being at KUTX opens the door. It's Summer Jam being built opens the door, and there's so many different players in the city who are doing these little things and making it about community. It just can't be ignored at this point.
Yeah, I had someone the other day. We were talking about rap music, and granted it was kind of an older generation. I'm 46 now, so it's kind of like I'm around.
But at this point, everyone's grown up with hip hop.
Yes.
Right? Yes. At some point in your life.
Yes, but that doesn't mean that their relationship with it has always been of understanding and acceptance. True. And so we were talking about it because their son listens to really what comes across as really angry It just sounds very
Yeah.
angry. And I think that's fair to say that there definitely is a lot of rap music that is kind of, to some people, really off-putting. Help me understand, because I grew up on it and I'm all for it. But there is a mark for me even too, where I'm like, I just can't, it's not gonna win me, because maybe
Yeah.
I'm not angry. Or what is it that hooks people? Is it that I kind of have to feel what they're saying? Or tell me when it's like really angry, because I really do want to understand. What's the grab when it's that kind of, I'm talking like top level,
Yeah.
like angry, whatever. What's
I
the
think
attraction?
what I thought about recently that stuck with me was there's, especially when you're listening to rap music, there's rappers that you hear and there's rappers that you listen to. And a lot of the time, like sonically, some of that rap music that comes off very aggressive, whether it's the actual production of it, whether it's the lyrics, whether it's like just sonically in general,
Yeah.
it's that feeling of like, maybe it's encouraging me to go get money, or like be ambitious, right? Like
Yeah.
it's
Like
not even so much
hyping,
about what they're saying.
like it's a
It's just,
hype kind
yeah,
of thing.
totally.
Okay.
And there's the energy behind that. Like, I'll put on songs that in the car that just hit different because like it makes me excited about
Yeah.
driving my car. You know what I mean? And like, and
Yeah.
that to me is music that you hear. There's what I love about Deezie and other influential artists that I think are like him. It's they're rappers that you listen to. Like he's
Mhm.
telling you something. There's a story
Yes.
there. There's a message. That's not everybody, but to me, that's how I was able to really understand what I was listening to and what I was hearing. And
Mhm.
there was so Kanye released an album, I think 2012, 2013, called Yeezus, and it's really industrial. It's really dark, like just sonically and conceptually. And it kind of hit me at a time in my life where I was probably a little I was a little angsty. Like it was before I moved here, and I was like, I was very just driven and like just ready to go. And it struck me at this time in my life where I sort of needed that sound. It sort of
Mm.
helped me expand what I liked sonically. And so I think like, especially with kids, you're going to be gravitated to music that makes you feel something. It doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't have to be, positive, but
Yeah.
that doesn't necessarily mean that it's negative. It's
You know,
not white or black.
yeah, I like that you said that. And I think it's kind of making me feel like it's almost like grabs your hand and says, come, let's go feel this. Like the music takes you by the hand and is like, it's safe. Like you can come listen to this track and you can feel all the depth of
And
anger,
just
angst, whatever,
let go.
and like you're
Yeah.
safe. So like just
Yeah. And
like be safe inside the song, and like you're good. It's a good container to kind of just sit in.
absolutely.
I like that.
That's why I fell in love with techno music. Like it, I never listened to techno until maybe a few years ago, and I went all in, started DJing with Eric, like because it is that feeling of like I get to completely let go of any thought in my head, and I
Yeah.
get to just feel this like constant bass, and this like maybe there's harmonies that come and go, and
Yeah.
I just get to let go, and I just get to feel this music. And if it honestly, that's the way I love hearing music. My dad taught drums. He was a percussion teacher for 30 years.
Wow.
That I love it when I can't. All I can feel is my heart pounding from the bass or something like because it allows me to let go. It allows me to see music. And again, I think there's music that you hear and feel, and then there's music that you listen to, and I think they're different.
Yeah. I feel clearer on that. I think that thank you for that, and just kind of letting me ask that question and go down that road, because I do want to understand it, because I love rap music, and I'm a 80s 90s kid, and the
Yeah,
halftime at the Super Bowl, this last one with Dr. Dre and Snoop and Mary J. Blige. I mean, that that is the fabric of who I am, musically,
yeah,
at least part of it. And I didn't get off my feet during that whole thing, because that's just like, I love it so much. And I love a message, and I love it with,
yeah,
I just love it so much.
it's my favorite genre because I think it's more progressive than anything else that's commercial. Like that sound that you grew up 80s, 90s hip hop versus the sound that's prevalent today is so dramatically different that like what other genre can do that in a span of 3 decades? Like not many, you
That's
know,
a
and
really
I
good
think like
point. Yeah. Instead of
it's
like
changed
individual
so much.
artists. Yeah. Instead of like, we always look at individual artists and how they have progressed. I never zoomed out until this moment and looked at how a genre progressed.
Really fast.
Dude.
It's pretty amazing. And like that, you know, when people early on, you know, people called it mumble rap, and rappers were just like you couldn't even listen to the lyrics because you didn't know what they were saying.
Right.
And a lot of people I grew up with like hated it. They didn't understand it. And it was like, no, dude, all they're doing is using their voice as an instrument. It's the same thing as a guitar. Like you're not meant to hear every word. You're just meant to hear the melody. Like that's it.
Yeah.
And that helps people understand that.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's a testament to the culture, because the culture is so ingrained in everything, whether it's fashion or film, music, sports. Like we see it, and it changes so fast. And I think that's what I love the most about it is there's no wrong answers. Like
Yeah.
in traditional blues or jazz or folk, like they'll look down on you if you try to do something differently, at least from my experience. And like even country is that way.
I was just gonna say, listen to country music now. It's not very country.
No. And
It's a wide, that pendulum swings real wide.
And what I've learned from that is, you know, working in a lot of Nashville country and understanding that pop side of country. It's funny because while it's like super prevalent and super industry, country will look down on you if you start in pop and you work over to country. It almost will never be accepted. You have to start country and then lean pop.
Yeah.
And we don't have those rules and those barriers in hip hop. We don't. You can do whatever you want. And there's something amazing there as a creative that you can go create, and no one's going to judge you for that.
Yeah. I love
it's
that.
Wild.
Gosh, I've never, I really appreciate it. I just, honestly, I think about this genre a lot, and I admittedly, you know, I am an absolute student, and I'm just so curious about it because I feel like there's so much to learn from. I've always said, like, you know, in a rap song, they're saying like exponentially 100 times more than an average song. And so it either pulls me in and I can actually listen, or it kind of pushes me away because it's like, I'm never going to get this. I've had to listen to Kendrick Lamar's album a few times, and I'm still kind of like, you know, digesting because there's just so much there. Plus, I'm so interested. And it's pretty revolutionary and brave. So it's a genre that I think I really respect because I don't have it figured out like I do the others. Like, okay, the others are easy. This one's not for me. This one's not. And so I just have like deep respect for it, and deep respect for artists that perform it and what they have to say.
That's why I love Deezie so much, because like, you know, at its heart, Deezie is that traditional hip hop that I think anyone of any age can enjoy. It's a story. He's telling you his ultimate truth. But he's bending it in areas that I think like are still groundbreaking. Like even the production is super futuristic, and then you go to a live show and you see a rock.
I know.
And like that's again the beautiful thing about getting to work with Deezie is that he's the ultimate creative. He'll never be boxed, even if people try to. And you know, I think the struggle in our journey is trying to convince the industry to not box us in, because he's so unique in what he does. But that's what I really enjoy about him. And seeing him live is remarkable.
I mean, yes to all of that. And that smile of his when he does smile. I mean, he's just the sweetest.
He really is.
I
And
love
that's
him.
the thing. That's our goal, is like really just put Deezie in front of people, because he has
Yes.
that personality that anyone can relate to and connect with, and want to see him succeed. So
Mhm.
that's really the goal, is just put him on stage, get him in front of people, and people will figure it out.
Absolutely. He's so talented. Um, well, before we wrap it up, let's tell me, is there anyone else in Austin that you're kind of digging these days? Other artists?
Oh yeah, so many. I think, because of how I started in Austin and just constantly looking for artists, and um, finding things that I enjoy, and there's such a variety of different sounds and genres here. Um, I got the chance to work with Harry Adokwa for a while. He's amazing. I mean, he,
Yes.
again, another total creative. He blends so many different sounds, and sometimes you can't even call him a rapper, but it comes from hip hop. So it's
Right.
like he's remarkable. Victor and Honey XL. I mean, that's a long time been a band that I've fell in love with. It's funny, they played a show at Far Out, and just like in their sound, they span rock music from the '60s all the way till now. Just different songs and sounds, and again, just like stuff that is pushing the envelope. And so I really love what they're doing. Odyssey has been such a tremendous success, and seeing Sam played Summer Jam, to see him grow into what he's doing, I think it's proving that Austin can build industry here and build successful acts sort of in this new age.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I think he's coming on the show. I got to
oh, I
meet
love
him.
that.
Yeah, I got to meet him at an event I hosted like a month ago. And
Oh, cool.
yeah, and I walked up to him and I was like, this is I gotta I
Yeah,
gotta introduce myself because I love Black Odyssey. Seen them at
yeah,
ACL. I'm such a fan and admirer of what they're doing, and so excited for them to come out with their first single on the label and with Get Benny. And
yeah.
yeah, it's
No,
very
it's
exciting.
so it's so fun to watch. Drint,
Mhm.
I've been a long time supporter of Drint. He just played at Far Out.
Yep.
Um, an amazing person, has a beautiful voice. Like he's destined for amazing things. Jake Lloyd, I mean, it's so cool to see him and Deezie be able to create something organic together. And
Yeah.
even him as an artist, he's really one of the few artists who makes Deezie want to be better than he is. And that's a testament to Jake and his band,
Yeah.
because they're amazing.
Yeah, they balance each other. Jake was on too, and we talked about that where, where they kind of yin and yang each other.
Yeah. So I love what they're doing. But honestly, it's like, there's I'm trying to think of names. There's so many talented people here,
Yeah.
and in all different genres. Deezy's playing a show at Mohawk this coming Friday with
Friday.
Texas String Assembly, and vibing in the suburb. I can't even think of how to say it. Submersibles. That's it. Vibing in the submersibles. Has
Hard
built
one.
an incredible thing. Yeah. So it's just sounds coming from so many different places. There's a huge Tejano scene here that's building such an amazing platform for the culture at Malavita downtown. Like there is so many cool things happening culturally. I can't even dive into how
Yeah,
many cool things are happening. But music is alive and well in Austin.
this is
Younger
true.
artists. I met this kid named Metallic Forest, who's a rapper, and I was introduced to him by San Gabriel, who's another artist doing amazing things. Um, so yeah, it's never ending right now. I think we're gonna continue to see a renaissance of Austin music, for a long time.
Awesome. And it is better off for the fact that you are a part of that scene. I think you're doing awesome things, and I'm so glad that
Thank
you
you.
followed your passion and continue to do that and take care of yourself
Yeah,
and push
it's really
yourself.
important. It's really important to me. I I owe Austin a lot. I owe Austin music a lot. It's always been something that I've wanted better for, and what if people ever get it confused, that's ultimately what I want. I want Austin to be successful. I want Austin to be held up there with Nashville and New York and LA. I think, like you talked about very early on, there's a community and then there's industry, and those always haven't been on the same page in Austin. But there's no reason why they can't be. And I think ultimately, I'd love to create a home here and live here and like help to see the city grow. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I'm all about it.
and have the industry support the community. You know, there's one thing to like make money and for
Yeah.
Austin, for that industry to be buzzing. The other and very responsible thing that needs to happen is for the artists to be able to make enough money to afford to live here and to afford
Yeah.
healthcare and to afford all of those things. So there's that
Yeah.
balance there.
It's a big problem. And I hope, you know, there's definitely people in the city who are trying to make it there. I've always likened Austin to being like a professional art class. And
Right.
that's not a knock on creatives. That it's because there isn't that industry here to allow them to be professionals. And that's why we see them leave. And I don't want to see talented artists feel like they have to leave Austin in order to make their dreams a reality. And things will change. I mean, I think the city you know, they're understanding it more. There's pressure there from community leaders. You know, there's things like Ham and Sims who do a phenomenal job in providing, but Austin has always been a slacker town. That's what it was built on. And with that comes the identity of like, no, this is a hobby. I do this because I love it. That's it. No, it's that plus like, let's make sure that you can afford to keep creating here and keep making this a city that people want to come to and have it be known around the world as an industry player. Like if we're going to promote that it's the live music capital of the world,
then freaking take care of them.
let's make it that, you know? Yeah. And so I love what's happening. I'm going to advocate for it all the time. And I think like we see acts like Black Odyssey and hopefully Deezie and this new generation of artists make it. I think we can tell a younger generation that it's possible.
Yeah, I love it. Well, on that wonderful note, we're gonna say goodbye to you, but I'd love to have you back on and keep tabs on what you're doing. So nice to talk to you, and thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm a big fan. I love what you're doing. I love that you're chasing it. I love the aesthetic of it. I love the guests that you've had. So like, yeah, I believe in it. I know other people believe in it. So keep doing your thing.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Well, until next time, we'll say goodbye to Wane Lindsey and we'll see you on the flip side. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.